I bought a house, then my mother-in-law demanded she should get the master bedroom, so I taught her a hard lesson. The realtor handed me the keys with a smile that said, "Congratulations, you've made it." I clutched them so tightly the metal bit into my palm, leaving little crescent indentations that I'd later trace with my finger, remembering this moment. My moment. Our moment. "We did it, babe," Ethan whispered, his arm around my waist as we stood on the porch of our very first home. Not an apartment with paper-thin walls where the neighbors' arguments became our unwanted podcasts. Not a rental where we needed permission to hang a picture frame. Our home. All 1,600 square feet of it, with the blue shutters I'd fallen in love with and the creaky third step on the staircase that somehow made the place feel lived in before we'd even moved a single box. This was supposed to be my fresh start, my house, my rules. Until she walked through the front door with a suitcase and a smug smile. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, there was the bliss. 2 glorious weeks of bliss. The master bedroom became my sanctuary. After spending years in cramped studio apartments and then sharing a 1-bedroom with Ethan, having a room large enough for a king-sized bed and my grandmother's antique vanity felt like luxury beyond measure. I'd wake up early just to sit at that vanity, applying my makeup in the golden morning light that streamed through our east-facing windows, thinking, this is what happiness feels like. We'd barely finished unpacking when Ethan's phone rang. It was a Tuesday evening, and we were sprawled on our new couch. Well, new to us, courtesy of a secondhand store with surprisingly good taste, sharing a pizza and debating where to hang our wedding photo. Ethan's face shifted as he listened to the caller. "Mom, slow down. Are you okay?" A pause. "How bad was the fall?" Another longer pause. "Of course we can help. Let me talk to Rachel." My stomach tightened as he covered the phone. My mom fell down her porch steps. Nothing broken, but she's pretty shaken up. The doctor said she shouldn't be alone for a few days. His eyes held the question before he asked it. Would it be okay if she stayed with us? Just for a week, until she's steady on her feet again? I hesitated. Linda Green and I had what you might generously call a complicated relationship. She'd never outright said I wasn't good enough for her son, but she'd perfected the art of the backhanded compliment. "You're so brave to wear those patterns with your figure." And Ethan always said he'd marry someone ambitious, but I suppose there's value in your simpler career path, were among her greatest hits. But she was Ethan's mother, and she was hurt, and it was just 1 week. "Of course she can stay," I said, forcing a smile. "The guest room is all set up." Ethan beamed at me like I'd just offered to donate a kidney. "You're the best, Rachel." He returned to the call. "Mom, we'd love to have you stay with us while you recover." 2 days later, the doorbell rang. There she stood, Linda Green in all her perfectly coiffed glory, somehow looking immaculate despite her supposed injury. The only sign of her fall was a barely noticeable limp and a lightweight cane that matched her designer handbag. "Rachel, darling," she said, air-kissing both my cheeks with the precision of someone avoiding actual human contact. "So generous of you to open your little starter home to me in my time of need." I bit my tongue. Starter home? We'd stretched our budget to the breaking point for this place. "We're happy to help, Linda. Let me show you to the guest room." She followed me inside, her eyes scanning every surface like a health inspector in a questionable restaurant. Oh, interesting choice of wall color. Very youthful. The sage green paint had been my first project, a color I'd agonized over for weeks. "Thanks," I said flatly. "The guest room is upstairs, second door on the left." Linda paused at the foot of the stairs, her face contorting in what I'd soon recognize as her pity me expression.
"Oh, dear."
Stairs might be a challenge with my injury. She glanced toward the hallway leading to our master bedroom. "Is there perhaps a room on this floor?" "Just our bedroom," Ethan said, appearing with her suitcase. "But the guest room has its own bathroom. You'll be comfortable up there, Mom." She sighed with the dramatic flair of a silent film star. "I suppose I'll manage. Though the master bedroom would be better for someone my age, especially one recovering from trauma." And there it was. Not even 5 minutes in our home, and already she was eyeing our bedroom like a vulture circles a wounded animal. "Let me help you up," Ethan offered, taking her arm. Later that night, as we lay in bed, I turned to Ethan. "It's just for a week, right?" He kissed my forehead. "Just a week. I promise." I should have made him put that in writing. The first red flag appeared the next morning when I found Linda rearranging my carefully organized kitchen cabinets. "The flow was all wrong," she explained, not bothering to look up as she relocated my coffee mugs to a shelf I couldn't reach without a step stool. "You'll thank me later." By dinner, she'd helped by replacing my throw pillows with her own that she'd mysteriously packed, suggested the living room furniture would look better in an entirely different arrangement, and made 3 comments about how the master bedroom's closet would be perfect for her seasonal wardrobe rotation. As I watched her holding court at our dining table, Ethan laughing at her stories, I felt a cold certainty settle in my stomach. This woman had no intention of staying just 1 week. And that master bedroom? She wasn't just admiring it. She was planning to take it. She started as a guest. She became a squatter with throw pillows and a curling iron that lived in my bathroom. 1 week morphed into 2 without discussion. I came home from work on day 8 to find Linda in our living room, feet propped up on my coffee table, watching a reality show at a volume that could wake the dead. "Linda," I said, placing my bag down carefully, "wasn't today your checkout day?" She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "Oh, Rachel dear, didn't Ethan tell you? My doctor said I need at least another week of supervision. The dizziness from my fall is lingering." She tapped her temple delicately. Post-concussive symptoms can be so unpredictable. I frowned. "What doctor? When did you go to an appointment?" "Yesterday while you were at work. Ethan was kind enough to drive me." She turned back to the television. "I have the note somewhere if you need proof." She patted her pockets vaguely, but no note materialized then, or ever. That night, I confronted Ethan as we brushed our teeth. "Your mother says she's staying another week. When were you going to mention that to me?" Ethan at least had the decency to look sheepish. "I was going to tell you tonight. It just didn't seem like a big deal. She's not causing any trouble, right?" I spit toothpaste with more force than necessary. "She rearranged our entire pantry today. And she threw out my vanilla-scented candles because she said they gave her migraines." "Mom's sensitive to smells," he said defensively. "And she's just trying to be helpful with the organizing. She raised me in a spotless home." "This isn't about cleanliness, Ethan. It's about boundaries. This is our home." He kissed my forehead dismissively. "Just 2 more weeks, tops. I promise." 2 weeks became 3 with another vague medical excuse. The dizzy spells mysteriously appeared whenever Ethan was home and vanished when it was just Linda and me. During week 3, the real invasion began. I first noticed small things disappearing from our bedroom, my favorite throw blanket, the decorative clock from my nightstand. When questioned, Linda would respond with artful confusion. "Oh, I thought that was for general use," or "I was just borrowing it temporarily." Then came the kitchen coup. I returned from grocery shopping to find my recipe box emptied, my handwritten cards replaced with Linda's own recipes. "I noticed you struggle with meal planning," she explained, stirring something that smelled suspiciously like the beef stew Ethan had raved about from his childhood. "I've organized everything by protein now. Much more efficient." I stood there, clutching a bag of now unnecessary ingredients for the dinner I'd planned. "Where are my recipe cards?" "In that drawer," she said, not looking up. "Most were quite basic, dear. I've noted some improvements." I found my grandmother's handwritten recipes covered with Linda's red pen corrections. That night, Ethan barely noticed the change in menu. "Wow, Mom's beef stew. My favorite," he exclaimed, helping himself to seconds. "Actually, I was planning to make chicken marsala tonight," I said quietly. "This is better anyway," Linda chimed in. "Ethan needs heartier meals. He's looking too thin." I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. "I'm going to take a bath." The final straw of week 3 came when I went upstairs to discover my carefully arranged jewelry box in disarray, several pieces moved or missing entirely. I stormed downstairs, finding Linda watching TV again. Have you been in our bedroom? My jewelry's been moved. She didn't even look away from her show. I was looking for an earring back. You really should organize by metal type, not color. I was doing you a favor. I didn't ask for favors. I asked for privacy. My voice shook with barely contained rage. Don't be dramatic, Rachel. In a family, everything is shared. She finally looked at me, her smile cold. Families shouldn't have secrets. That night, I installed a small lock on our bedroom door. When Ethan questioned it, I blamed it on my paranoia about break-ins. He laughed but didn't object. By the beginning of week 4, with still no departure date in sight, Linda had established clear territories. The kitchen was hers during meals. The living room was hers during her TV shows, which mysteriously aligned with any time I wanted to use the space. The guest bathroom was insufficient for her needs, so she required regular access to our ensuite. The final territorial push came on a Wednesday. I arrived home early from work with a migraine to find our bedroom door ajar, despite the lock I'd installed, which apparently hadn't been engaged when we left that morning. Inside, Linda stood in front of my vanity mirror, trying on my grandmother's pearl necklace, a family heirloom I wore only on special occasions. "What are you doing in here?" I asked, my voice deadly quiet. She didn't even flinch. "Oh, Rachel. I was looking for an aspirin. My room is so far from the medicine cabinet." She touched the pearls delicately. Lovely piece. Though they'd look better with a proper cleaning. I know someone who could restring them, too. "Take them off," I said, extending my hand. "And get out of our bedroom." "Don't be rude, dear." I was only admiring them. She removed the necklace, but made no move to leave. Instead, she sat on our bed, my side, and sighed dramatically. "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about this room." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "It makes more sense for me to take the master bedroom," she said matter-of-factly. "These stairs are aggravating my knee, and the guest room is so drafty. Plus, the bathroom here has those safety rails for the shower." She smoothed my comforter. "You and Ethan are young. You can manage the smaller room." I stared at her, momentarily speechless. "This is our bedroom, Linda. In our house." "Yes, but family accommodates family." Her tone suggested she was explaining something to a small child. "Ethan agrees it would be the practical solution, especially since it looks like I'll be staying a bit longer." "Staying longer? How much longer?" She waved her hand vaguely. "We haven't settled on details. A few months, at least." The room seemed to tilt. "A few months? When did you and Ethan discuss this?" "This morning, dear. I thought he would have mentioned it." Her smile was pure triumph. "I've already spoken to my landlord about subletting my apartment. Ethan thought it made financial sense." I felt my migraine pounding behind my eyes, rage and disbelief fighting for dominance. This wasn't just an extended visit anymore. This was an occupation. And apparently, my husband had already surrendered. I didn't just marry Ethan. I apparently married his mother, too. That night, I waited until Linda had retreated to her guest room before confronting Ethan. He was in our bathroom, flossing with a casual air of someone who hadn't just betrayed their spouse. "When were you going to tell me your mother is moving in?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, voice deliberately calm despite the storm raging inside me. Ethan's hands froze mid-floss. "She told you about that? About subletting her apartment? About staying for months? About taking our bedroom?" Each question came out sharper than the last. He sighed, disposing of the floss and turning to face me. "She's exaggerating. I never agreed to give her our bedroom. But you did agree she could stay for months without discussing it with me first." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I usually found endearing. "Not tonight. She's having financial difficulties, Rachel. Her landlord raised the rent again, and her pension barely covers her medications." "So, you offered our house as a solution? Without even mentioning it to me?" "I was going to. Tonight, actually." He reached for my hands, but I stepped back. "It's temporary. Just until she can find a more affordable place." I laughed, a hollow sound that held no humor. Linda has no intention of finding another place. She's establishing territory like a stray cat, Ethan. Yesterday, she replaced all the photos in the hallway with pictures of your family, photos where I don't exist. She's just trying to feel at home, he defended. This isn't her home. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. This is our home. The home we saved for. The home we chose together. She's my mother, Rachel. And I'm your wife. The person you promised to build a life with. I took a steadying breath. You need to tell her she can't stay for months. A few more weeks, maybe, but she needs to find her own place. Ethan's face hardened. I can't just throw my mother out on the street. That's not what I'm asking, and you know it. I press my fingertips to my temples. She's manipulating you, Ethan. Using your guilt to get what she wants. Not everyone has the luxury of a strained relationship with their parents, he snapped. Some of us actually care about our family's well-being. The words hit like a physical blow. My parents had died within a year of each other while I was in college. My father from a heart attack, my mother from cancer that moved too quickly for goodbyes. Family was something I'd lost, then found again with Ethan. Or so I thought. That was cruel, I whispered, tears threatening. His face immediately softened with regret. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I grabbed my pillow from the bed. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Rachel, don't. Your mother can have the master bedroom, I said, voice breaking. Apparently, she already has you. I closed the door before he could see me cry. The guest room felt cold and impersonal, made worse by the framed photo of Ethan's childhood that Linda had placed on the nightstand, a picture showing mother and son at the beach, both smiling into the camera with identical dimples. I turned it face down and collapsed onto the bed. Sleep evaded me as I replayed the argument, each word a fresh cut. Around 2 a.m., I heard our bedroom door open and close, followed by hushed voices in the hallway. Linda's theatrical whisper carried easily. I don't understand why she's being so difficult. Most daughters-in-law would be grateful for my help. She's just adjusting, came Ethan's muffled response. Give her time. The way she spoke to me about the bedroom was very hurtful, Linda continued. As if I'm some kind of intruder. I'll talk to her tomorrow, Ethan promised. Try to make her see reason. Make me see reason? The audacity stole my breath. Morning came with no resolution. Ethan had to leave early for a client meeting, but he left a note on the kitchen counter. We need to talk tonight. I love you. Let's find a solution that works for everyone. I crumpled the note just as Linda appeared, dressed in a silk robe I'd never seen before, clutching a mug that read, World's Best Mom. Another new addition to our kitchen. Good morning, dear. Sleep well. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Wonderfully, I lied. The guest room is so comfortable. No wonder you want to stay. Her smile tightened. Actually, I was thinking we should revisit the room arrangement. My back is simply finishing me from those guest room stairs. Funny, the master bedroom has the same stairs. She waved away my logic. But fewer trips, dear. My bathroom essentials would all be on one floor. Those essentials seemed to be migrating to my bathroom anyway, I observed, noting her expensive face creams that had appeared on my vanity. Sharing is what families do. She sipped her coffee. I was telling Ethan last night that this resistance is so unexpected. When I lived with my mother-in-law after I married his father, I gladly took the smaller room. Did your mother-in-law demand the master bedroom of the house you purchased? Her eyes narrowed. You've made your point, Rachel. But consider this. Ethan grew up with me taking care of him. He's used to certain domestic standards. Standards I've noticed are somewhat lacking here. The implication hung between us, sharp as a knife. I'd never be good enough. Not as a wife, not as a housekeeper, not as a daughter-in-law. That afternoon, while Linda napped, I began documenting. Every item moved, every boundary crossed, every manipulative comment. I created a spreadsheet with dates and descriptions, took photos of rearranged rooms, and even recorded Linda's monologue about how the master bedroom would be better suited for someone permanent in Ethan's life. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was reclaiming my sanity. That evening, As we sat down to a dinner Linda had prepared without asking, replacing my planned meal again, she raised her glass in a toast. To family, she said, eyes fixed on Ethan. And to changes that bring us closer together. Ethan smiled uncertainly, caught between his mother's expectant gaze and my stony silence. I've decided, Linda continued, placing her hand over Ethan's, that since I'll be staying for the foreseeable future, we should make the living arrangements more sensible. I've already started moving some things to the master bedroom. My fork clattered against my plate. You did what? Just a few essentials, she said smoothly. Ethan helped me this morning before he left for work. I turned to my husband, betrayal burning in my chest. Is that true? His silence was answer enough. I thought we were going to discuss this tonight, I said quietly. We were, he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. But Mom needed help with her heavy medication case, and it made sense to just give her our room. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Without talking to me first. Again. In that moment, looking at Ethan's guilty face and Linda's satisfied smile, I realized I wasn't just fighting for a bedroom. I was fighting for my marriage, and I was losing. If no one else would stand up for me, I'd do it myself. But I needed evidence and a plan. The breaking point came 3 nights later. Ethan and I had been sleeping in the guest room, the arrangement now treated as permanent, though never officially discussed. The air between us was thick with unspoken arguments, our conversations reduced to logistical necessities. We need to talk about this. I'd attempted, but Ethan always found an excuse. He was late for work, tired from a long day, or, most commonly, not in the mood for another fight about Mom. That evening, Ethan had invited his college friends over for dinner, the first social event in our new home. I'd spent the afternoon preparing, grateful for the distraction and the opportunity to feel normal again. Nothing fancy, Ethan had assured me, just burgers and beer. I'd taken the day off work to clean the house, marinate steaks, a step up from burgers, but I wanted to impress and prepare sides. For the first time in weeks, I felt ownership over my home again. Until Linda inserted herself. Oh, are we entertaining tonight? She'd asked innocently, watching me chop vegetables for a salad. Just some of Ethan's friends from college, I replied, trying to keep my tone light. Nothing formal. 2 hours later, I emerged from the shower to find Linda had completely taken over. My carefully marinated steaks had been replaced by her meatloaf. My fresh salad ingredients were pushed aside for her heavy potato casserole. And in the center of the dining table sat her infamous, special occasion centerpiece, a gaudy arrangement of silk flowers surrounded by photos of Ethan as a child. What happened to the steaks? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Oh, I knew Ethan would prefer my meatloaf for his friends. He always says it's his favorite. She didn't even look up from her stirring. Those steaks were much too expensive anyway. I put them in the freezer for another time. I bit my tongue. This wasn't a hill to die on. Not with guests arriving in 30 minutes. The dinner started painfully and only got worse. Linda positioned herself at the head of the table, my usual seat, and dominated the conversation with stories of Ethan's childhood, constantly referring to our home as Ethan's house and to me as the new wife. Mark, Ethan's oldest friend, tried to include me. Rachel, Ethan tells me you decorated the place. It looks amazing. Before I could answer, Linda jumped in. Well, she had a start at it, but we've made some adjustments. The original color choices were a bit youthful. She patted my hand condescendingly. She's learning, though, with time. I caught the uncomfortable glances exchanged between Ethan's friends. Even worse was Ethan's silence, his focus fixed on his plate as his mother continued. The meatloaf is delicious, Mom, he finally said, changing the subject. I know it's your favorite, she beamed. Rachel was planning to make steaks, but I knew you'd prefer this. Mark's wife, Jenny, turned to me. You had steaks? That sounds amazing. They're in the freezer, I said quietly. Linda thought meatloaf would be better. Because I know my son, Linda interjected. Rachel still hasn't quite figured out his tastes yet. She leaned in, as if sharing a confidence with the entire table. Last week she made salmon. Ethan hates salmon. I love salmon, Ethan said, finally looking up. I've ordered it on our last 3 date nights. Linda waved dismissively. That's just restaurant politeness. At home, you've always preferred meat and potatoes. Remember, I raised you. So, Rachel, Jenny tried again, clearly attempting to rescue me. How are you liking homeownership? I opened my mouth to respond, but Linda beat me to it again. She's barely had time to form an opinion, what with me handling most of the domestic duties. Her laugh was brittle. The poor thing was overwhelmed with the basics. The way she organized the kitchen, you wouldn't believe it. The table fell silent. I felt heat rising to my face, not from embarrassment, but from a rage so pure it practically glowed beneath my skin. Excuse me, I said, standing abruptly. I need some air. I escaped to our backyard, gulping in the cool evening breeze, wondering when I'd become so powerless in my own life. In my own home. That's when I heard it through the open kitchen window, Linda's voice, slightly lowered but still audible. Between us, I'm concerned about Ethan's choice. She's so basic. And that temper. You should see how she overreacts to the slightest suggestion. I didn't hear the responses, just the murmur of uncomfortable guests. But I did hear Ethan's silence. Again. That night, after everyone had left and Linda had retired to MY master bedroom, I confronted Ethan in the guest bathroom. You let her humiliate me in front of your friends, I said, voice trembling. You sat there while she dismissed me in MY home. She wasn't trying to. Stop defending her. My whisper was fierce. She's manipulating you, manipulating us. And you're letting her destroy our marriage. His face hardened. You're overreacting. Again. The word hit like a slap. Again. Linda's accusation, now in my husband's mouth. I want her gone, I said flatly. Either she leaves or I do. Ethan's eyes widened. You'd leave me over this? Over my mother needing a place to stay? This isn't about her needing a place. This is about her taking over our home, our relationship, our lives, and you letting her. He shook his head. You're giving me an ultimatum? That's not fair. Neither is this situation. I moved toward the door. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. The next morning, I called in sick to work and waited until both Ethan and Linda had left the house. He for work, she for her mysterious doctor's appointment that never seemed to have any paperwork. Then I executed my plan. First, I ordered a tiny, discreet nanny cam online with same-day delivery. Then I called a locksmith to change the master bedroom lock. Finally, I contacted a lawyer, a college friend who specialized in property law, and asked about my rights as the homeowner. The house was in my name only, as Ethan's credit had been damaged by an identity theft incident before our marriage. By afternoon, I had the nanny cam hidden in my grandmother's antique jewelry box, the one Linda had already snooped through multiple times. The master bedroom had a new lock with only one key, which I kept. And I had written confirmation from my lawyer that legally, I could evict anyone from my property with proper notice. For the next 3 days, I played a role, the defeated daughter-in-law who had accepted her place. I stopped arguing about the bedroom. I nodded when Linda criticized my cooking. I pretended not to notice when she borrowed my clothes without asking. All while the nanny cam recorded. What it captured exceeded even my worst suspicions. Linda wasn't just snooping. She was systematically going through every personal item I owned. She read my journal. She tried on my wedding jewelry. She even took photos of personal financial documents I'd stored in my nightstand. And she made phone calls from my bedroom, calls where she detailed her plans to help Ethan see he married beneath him and to establish myself permanently before they have children. I had everything I needed. Evidence. Leverage. Truth. The turning point wasn't when Linda took my bedroom. It was when I decided to take back my life. You wanted the master bedroom? Fine. Let's talk about what that really means. I spent a sleepless night on the couch rehearsing what I'd say. The words kept tangling, my righteous anger giving way to doubt. Was I overreacting? Would this destroy my marriage? But each time uncertainty crept in, I replayed Linda's voice from the nanny cam, Once I'm permanently established here, we can redecorate properly. Rachel has such pedestrian taste. By morning, my resolve had hardened like concrete. I texted Ethan. We need to talk tonight. All of us. Family meeting at 7. His reply came quickly. Is everything okay? I stared at those 3 little dots that indicated he was typing more, then stopping, then typing again. Finally, Mom mentioned you've been acting strange. Of course she had. I turned off my phone. I spent the day preparing. First, I visited a storage facility and rented a small unit, paying for 3 months up front. Then I copied all the nanny cam footage onto 3 separate USB drives, one for Ethan, one for me, and one for safekeeping. I printed out the property deed with my name highlighted, along with the legal letter from my attorney friend outlining eviction procedures. Finally, I packed a small overnight bag, just in case. At 6:45, I set up my laptop on the dining room table and waited. Linda arrived first, sweeping in from a day of shopping with bags that suspiciously contained items in my size and style. Rachel, dear, you look peaky. Are you feeling well? The concern in her voice was as authentic as the designer bargains she claimed to find at outlet malls. I'm fine, Linda. Please have a seat. Ethan should be home any minute. She glanced at the laptop with narrowed eyes. What's this about? Ethan mentioned some sort of family meeting. We'll wait for him, I said calmly. When Ethan arrived, his expression was guarded. He kissed me reflexively on the cheek, but his eyes darted between me and his mother, clearly sensing the tension crackling in the air. What's going on? He asked, setting down his work bag. Sit down, please. Both of you. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, steady, authoritative, resolved. Once they were seated, I took a deep breath. This was it. No turning back. Ethan, I need to talk to you first. Privately. Linda immediately bristled. Anything you have to say can be said in front of me. We're family. That's precisely what we need to discuss. I turned to Ethan. Either we speak privately first, or I play everything I have to show you in front of her. Your choice. Ethan's brow furrowed. Play what? Rachel, you're scaring me. 5 minutes. In the backyard. Now. To my surprise, he nodded and followed me outside. In the fading evening light, surrounded by the garden we'd planted together, I handed him one of the USB drives. Your mother has been invading my privacy. Systematically. For weeks. I kept my voice level. I installed a nanny cam after I caught her in my bedroom again. This contains 3 days of footage. She goes through my personal belongings when we're not home. She reads my journal. She tries on my clothes. She makes calls about her plans to stay permanently. Ethan's face drained of color. That can't be. Watch it. Tonight. But first, I need you to make a choice. A choice? Yes. Right now, before we go back inside, you need to decide. Are you my husband or are you her son? That's not fair, he protested. I can be both. No. Not the way things have been going. I stepped closer, holding his gaze. She's trying to push me out of my own home, out of our marriage, and you've been letting her. So decide, Ethan. Do you stand with me as my partner, or do you keep enabling her behavior? He swallowed hard. You're really asking me to choose between you and my mother? I'm asking you to choose our marriage over her manipulation. I softened my tone. I don't want you to cut her off. I want you to help set boundaries that let us have a healthy relationship with her, one where she respects our home and our marriage. Something shifted in his eyes, recognition, then shame, then resolve. Let me see the footage first. That's not how this works. I need to know where you stand before we confront her together. He was quiet for a long moment, the weight of the decision visible in the set of his shoulders. Finally, he met my eyes. I stand with you. I'm your husband first. Relief washed over me, so powerful I nearly stumbled. Thank you, I whispered. But I still need to see this footage. You will. But first, we need to present a united front to your mother. We returned to the dining room where Linda sat tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. Well, what mysterious secrets have you been sharing? Linda, I began, sitting directly across from her. It's time for some honesty between us. I'm always honest, dear. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Let's start with your living situation. You told us you needed to stay for a week because of a fall. It's been nearly 2 months now. She waved dismissively. Family helps family. I agree, but family doesn't lie to family. I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. Family doesn't snoop through private belongings. I pressed play on the first video clip, Linda entering the master bedroom using a bobby pin to disengage the old lock, heading straight for my jewelry box. Her face turned chalky white. You've been spying on me? No, I've been protecting my privacy. In my home. The home that is legally in my name only. I slid the property deed toward her. Ethan, she appealed, turning to her son. Are you going to let her speak to me this way? The room fell silent as we both looked at him. This was the moment of truth. Ethan cleared his throat. Mom, I've supported you staying here because I love you. But Rachel is right. You crossed lines you shouldn't have crossed. Linda's expression morphed from shock to outrage. After everything I've done for you, I raised you alone. I sacrificed everything, and I'm grateful, Ethan said quietly. But I'm an adult now, with a wife, a partnership that needs to come first. She's turned you against me. Linda's voice rose to a shriek. I played another clip, Linda on the phone, saying, once I get Rachel out of the picture, Ethan will come to his senses. He's always been easily influenced. The room fell silent again. I'm not turning Ethan against you, I said calmly. You're doing that yourself. Linda's face crumpled, tears appearing on command. I just wanted to be close to my son. No, I countered. You wanted to control your son, and our home, and our marriage. I slid the lawyer's letter toward her. You have 3 days to find other accommodations. I've rented you a storage unit for 3 months. I placed the key on top of the letter. Ethan and I will help you move your things. You can't just throw me out, she sputtered. Actually, I can. Legally. I tapped the letter. But I'm giving you time and help out of respect for the fact that you're Ethan's mother. Linda turned to Ethan, tears streaming down her face. Are you going to let her do this to me? Your own mother? Ethan took a deep breath, then reached for my hand. Mom, we'll help you find a nice apartment. I'll even help with the rent for a while. But Rachel is right. This arrangement isn't working. In that moment, Linda's mask slipped completely. The tears vanished, replaced by cold fury. You'll regret this, she hissed, standing so abruptly her chair toppled backward. Both of you. As she stormed upstairs, Ethan squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have seen it sooner. We'll deal with this together, I replied, feeling the first tentative renewal of our partnership. The master bedroom was mine again, and so was my husband. I took back my space, my voice, and my peace. And this time, no one's crossing that threshold uninvited. Linda left 3 days later with considerably more fanfare than when she arrived. There were tears, hers, stoic silence, Ethan's, and a carefully maintained professional demeanor, mine, as we loaded her belongings into a moving truck bound for a senior apartment complex 20 minutes away. I hope you're satisfied, she said as she handed over the master bedroom key. Not to me, but to Ethan, a final small defiance. Tearing apart a family like this. I bit my tongue against the obvious retort. She had been the one doing the tearing. Instead, I simply said, we'll visit once you're settled in. Her parting shot came as she climbed into the passenger seat of the moving truck. She'll disappoint you eventually, Ethan. When she does, your mother will still be here. After the truck disappeared around the corner, Ethan and I stood in awkward silence on our front porch. The same porch where, just months ago, we'd celebrated our fresh start. I'll start cleaning the bedroom, I finally said, turning toward the door. Rachel, wait. Ethan caught my hand. I'm sorry. For everything. For not seeing what was happening. For not standing up for you sooner. I wanted to fall into his arms, to say everything was fine now, forgiven and forgotten. But the hurt was still too raw, the betrayal too recent. I need time, I said honestly. I'm glad you finally saw the truth, but I can't just pretend the last 2 months didn't happen. He nodded, eyes downcast. I understand. What do you need from me? Space. And maybe a recommendation for a couples therapist. That afternoon, I reclaimed the master bedroom like an exorcist, removing every trace of Linda's presence. I stripped the bed linens she'd replaced with her own floral pattern. I scrubbed the bathroom until my hands were raw. I burned lavender-scented candles. The scent she'd complained gave her migraines. In every corner. Physical cleansing was the easy part. The emotional cleansing would take longer. That night, Ethan slept in the guest room without me having to ask. I lay awake in our reclaimed bed, surrounded by familiar smells and sounds, wondering if our marriage could recover from the fracture Linda had created. 2 weeks later, we sat across from Dr. Meredith Chen, a couples therapist with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Tell me what brought you here, she invited, crossing her legs and settling back in her chair. Ethan and I exchanged glances. Where to begin? My mother-in-law tried to take over our home, I said finally, and for a while, she succeeded. Over the next hour, we unpacked the saga, Linda's extended stay, the boundary violations, Ethan's divided loyalties, my mounting resentment, and finally, the confrontation that had ended the occupation. Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Ethan, why do you think it was so difficult for you to see what your mother was doing? He stared at his hands. She's been the center of my world my whole life. After my dad left, it was just the two of us against everything. Seeing her as manipulative means questioning everything I thought I knew about our relationship. And Rachel, Dr. Chen turned to me. What do you need now to feel secure in your marriage again? I need to know that we're a team, I said, surprising myself with the immediacy of my answer. That when challenges come, whether it's his mother or anything else, we face them together, not as adversaries. Dr. Chen assigned us homework, daily check-ins, weekly date nights, and a creative project to reclaim our space together. That weekend, we repainted the master bedroom, from Linda's imposed practical beige back to the sage green I'd originally chosen. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. 3 months later, we'd established a new normal. Linda remained in her senior apartment, where Ethan visited her twice monthly, alone at first, then occasionally with me once the rawness had faded. Our house rules were clear. Visits were scheduled in advance, limited to afternoon teas or early dinners, and Linda always left before nightfall. The boundaries held, though not without testing. There were the emergency phone calls that turned out to be minor inconveniences. The subtle digs about the house's maintenance whenever she visited. The occasional, I was just in the neighborhood drop bys that we politely but firmly redirected. But something unexpected happened as we maintained these boundaries. Our relationship with Linda gradually improved. Without the power struggle over territory, we could occasionally enjoy her company. In controlled doses, her stories about Ethan's childhood were endearing rather than invasive. When she wasn't trying to claim our space, she could actually be charming. She's trying, Ethan observed after one successful visit where Linda had complimented my garden without a single backhanded comment. I think she finally understands she can be part of our lives without controlling them. On the 1-year anniversary of moving into our home, we threw a housewarming party, the celebration we should have had originally. Friends filled every room with laughter and conversation. Linda came for a carefully scheduled 2 hours, behaved impeccably, and left graciously when planned. As the last guest departed, Ethan and I settled on the porch swing, glasses of wine in hand, watching fireflies flicker in the summer darkness. Happy house-iversary, he said, clinking his glass against mine. Sorry it took a domestic coup to get here. I laughed, the sound free and unburdened. We made it, though. Later that night, I sat in my grandmother's vanity in our peaceful bedroom, brushing my hair before bed. The mirror reflected not just my face, but the room behind me, our reclaimed sanctuary, the space Ethan and I had fought for and won. On the nightstand sat a small shadow box containing the old master bedroom key, mounted on velvet with a tiny engraved plaque. Boundaries protect love. Ethan came up behind me, placing his hands gently on my shoulders. What are you thinking about? I covered his hand with mine, meeting his eyes in the mirror. That some lessons are hard but necessary. That standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. And I smiled, turning to face him. That this house isn't just walls and rooms. It's a choice we make every day. To create space for each other. To protect what matters. To build something that's ours. In the morning, I'd wake in our rightful bedroom, in our reclaimed home, next to the husband who had finally chosen me. The master of my own house at last.